been a year and a half now since I left LA and moved to Seattle. A lot of changes, a lot of growth, a lot of reflection. Things are very different, you know, moving here. My mindset is very different. I do have a purpose here, you know, like my purpose moving here was to be closer to my family. I accomplished that. I started this new career. I started a business here, like with real estate. So it's just different. It's a very different living experience from what I feel like my life was in LA. I'm making better financial decisions. I made plenty of mistakes in LA and in my early 20s that I am still paying the price for now, and that's okay. You know, that it's been a longer journey than I expected in terms of that. I am just a lot better with my money here. I think maybe less distraction, but also just you grow up, you know what I mean? Like I realized what I was doing in terms of my spending wasn't sustainable. So when I came here, and then you couple in the fact that I'm in a pandemic, you know, I wasn't traveling like I used to. There were a lot of factors, and then I kind of got in this habit of like really sticking to my budget. I have thought a lot more about my version of happiness and what does that look like? What is my why? What am I working towards? Those are big questions in real estate, but these are questions you can ask yourself no matter what you're doing in your life. And so I'm finally at that point. When I think about happiness now and like what I'm working towards, I'm just trying to zen out, man. Real estate is high stress. So yeah, a lot of good reflection and just trying to work towards whatever this is in my head. This chapter was it was a very different chapter than what it was to move to LA at 20 years old. Everything happens for a reason. I feel like a lot of the things that changed in my life was because of the pandemic, which is so crazy. I do think a lot of it is age, but I do think the pandemic kind of put a stop to a few things, a few habits, like I said, and finally, I guess, gave me the reason to leave LA. Those are kind of the talking points, I guess, like when I think about overall life since moving here. And it's gorgeous. Like I'm just gonna throw that out there. Through my little bay window here, I can literally see the Pacific Ocean. So I wouldn't have been able to have that in LA. I wasn't making that kind of money. I was not, no. There's so much beauty here, and I'm really grateful for that as well. And I think that'll kind of be my final point on just the generally life since moving. So now the question is, am I happy? In short, my answer is yes. I am happy, and I do not have any regrets making the transition and moving here. It's a totally different lifestyle here. Washington is, in Seattle specifically, like we are known for being very casual people. So it's funny when you I look at my route and then I'm like, okay, so I was in LA and I was trying to keep up all the time, and it's just so not the vibe here, and not everyone feels that way. My experience is that I wanted to keep up. So yeah, that has given me a lot of overall happiness. Is no pressures, you know, it's not a who's who city. People here don't care for the most part. They are involved in their own lives instead of other people's lives, and it's not an appearance-based city either, you know. I mean, that was why I was always drawn to New York. I always felt like New York would have that similar vibe, not to spiral. So lifestyle-wise, I guess what I'll add is, and I talked about this in one of my videos, like inflation has been crazy. So I think at one point I genuinely felt like life here was cheaper, and I don't agree with that opinion anymore. I'm gonna keep that video up, whichever one it was, where I talk about that, but it's no longer the case. And it's not just because I'm involved in real estate. Like anyone, anywhere, I have friends in many different states that tell me the exact same thing. Like, it's expensive to live. So when I talk about lifestyle, it sadly doesn't have anything to do with finances, because Seattle is expensive, and I am competing with people that have tech salaries that are 6 figures. Another reason why I'm happy is because I thought about real estate a lot over the years. Just always felt like it would be something that I would eventually get into, and I just didn't really imagine that I would do that there. I was like heavily involved in marketing, event marketing specifically, and then got into digital marketing. Like, that's really the path that I saw my life going, which was a great path, you know? It wasn't until I moved here that I felt that maybe getting into real estate would be obtainable. I don't know why I felt that way. I mean, LA is a cutthroat market, but I guess you could say that about every market. I don't know. I just didn't see it happening there. That is another reason I'm happy, because I'm able to build my own business. It's very fulfilling when you get to work on something for yourself. And then yeah, like I said, I've reflected a lot more. I've thought a lot more about what do I want in my future, and this chapter has really helped me think with that, you know, instead of just going with the flow. I'm more self-aware than I was, and I'm more intentional about the decisions that I make in my life. So those general thoughts, feelings, and emotions are why I feel overall very happy with my decision, happy for the most part living here. Now, on the flip side of that, I am human. I still think about New York a lot, and that has been a conversation if you've been following along for a while. So that is certainly something I've thought about. There is more at stake. Unfortunately, when you start a business like this somewhere, leaving isn't as easy. So there's a lot of thoughts about that, and just sort of how would I make it work, because, you know, on the one hand, I refuse to feel stuck in a situation, but on the other hand, what I chose to build here, I take that very seriously. I do. So I'm trying to still kind of discover a happy medium, and I have some personal goals that I need to reach before I can fully dive into that. But for anybody wondering, like, absolutely, I think about New York still quite a bit. Overall, I'm happy. I am happy with the changes that have come with this huge transition, and just happy to have a place to reflect with you guys. I did a ton of content about LA, so there's a playlist all about my time living there, and I did some content about Seattle when I first moved out here, and so I'm gonna get back on that train, as well as talk about other things of interest like sustainability. And if you are thinking about buying or selling in the Seattle market, I would love to hear from you. And if you're a renter and you are not even hardly thinking about this process yet, I have created some content for buying versus owning in the Seattle market that might be helpful for you. So if you are interested in receiving that information to your email, click the link below. Thanks guys for listening and watching and following along, and if you're new around here, hello, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one.